Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. This time we're taking a look at something called Bitcoin OS.
Bitcoin OS, or BOS for short.
Right, BOS. So we're talking about a new approach to smart contracts and Bitcoin and,
Definitely a hot topic in the crypto space these days.
for sure. Our main source for this deep dive is a fascinating YouTube video featuring Edan Yago, one of the folks behind BOS.
Ian's got a great way of explaining complex concepts, so it's going to be an interesting ride.
Definitely. And right off the bat, we came across something pretty surprising in the video. Apparently, the original Bitcoin code had a poker application built in.
Wait, really? Like Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, included a poker app?
Yep, it's right there in the early code. It hints that maybe Satoshi had bigger ambitions for Bitcoin from the very start, not just as a digital currency.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah,
So maybe Bitcoin was always meant to be more than just money.
exactly. Okay, so let's jump into what Bitcoin OS actually is. It's been called a game changer, but to be honest, I'm still wrapping my head around it.
Well, think of it this way. Bitcoin OS is like an operating system that sits on top of Bitcoin.
Okay, like Windows or Mac OS, but for Bitcoin?
Exactly. It unlocks Bitcoin's potential to run smart contracts, kind of like Ethereum does.
Ah, okay, so similar to Ethereum, but built on Bitcoin.
Right. They're both aiming for that smart contract functionality. But BOS is all about leveraging Bitcoin's existing strengths.
So is it like taking my old flip phone and turning it into a smartphone? Like suddenly it can do all these cool new things?
That's a great analogy. You're getting it.
Okay, I'm liking this. So we've got Ethereum over here doing its thing with smart contracts. And now BOS comes along using Bitcoin. How do they even make smart contracts work on Bitcoin? I mean, Bitcoin's original design wasn't really meant for that kind of complexity, was it?
That's where things get really clever.
Yeah.
BOS uses something called zero-knowledge proofs, or ZK proofs for short.
ZK proofs. I've heard of those, but they always sounded super complicated.
They can be, but the basic idea is pretty cool. It's like this. Imagine you can prove you're over 21 without actually showing your ID.
Whoa, that's trippy. How does that even work?
Well, ZK proofs allow you to prove, something without revealing the information itself. It's like magic, but it's actually some pretty advanced cryptography.
Okay, so that's how they're doing smart contracts on Bitcoin. But I bet it wasn't easy to integrate ZK proofs into Bitcoin's system.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Bitcoin relies on a scripting language that wasn't built for the kind of heavy lifting that ZK proofs require.
So how do they get around that?
Well, they had to get creative. The BOS developers came up with a workaround. They basically split the script into smaller chunks.
Okay.
And then they used Taproot. There's a relatively recent upgrade to Bitcoin that makes all these pieces fit together.
So they basically MacGyvered their way into making it work.
You could say that. It's a pretty ingenious solution.
Clever. Okay, so now we've got ZK proofs running on Bitcoin thanks to BOS, but it's more than just smart contracts, right? What does the whole BOS ecosystem look like?
So there are three main components that make up the BOS ecosystem.
3. Okay, let's hear them.
First up, you've got Bitsnark.
Bitsnark. Interesting name. What does that one do?
Bitsnark is the workhorse behind those ZK proofs. It's what allows for efficient verification of the proofs on the Bitcoin blockchain.
So Bitsnark is like the muscle ensuring everything runs smoothly and securely.
You could put it that way.
Well, what's the next component?
Next, we have Grail.
Grail. Okay, that one sounds mysterious. What does it do?
Grail is all about secure asset management. It lets you lock up your Bitcoin or even other crypto assets so they can be used safely in different blockchain environments.
Like sidechains or roll-ups? I've heard those terms thrown around.
Yeah, those are examples. Think of Grail like a bridge between Bitcoin and these other ecosystems.
Okay. So it makes sure your Bitcoin is safe even when it's being used in other places.
Exactly. It's like a secure vault for your digital assets.
Very cool. And what's the third component?
The third piece of the puzzle is Merkle Mesh.
Merkle Mesh. Okay, fill me in.
Merkle Mesh is all about interoperability. It makes sure that all these different environments, the sidechains, the rollups, they all talk to each other seamlessly.
Ah, so it prevents things from becoming a fragmented mess.
Exactly. It keeps the whole BOS ecosystem running smoothly.
That makes a lot of sense. So with BOS, we could have all these different applications built on Bitcoin all interacting with each other.
Precisely. That's the vision.
I'm starting to see the big picture here, but I have to ask, why build all this on Bitcoin in the first place? Why not just stick with Ethereum for smart contracts?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And there are a few key reasons why Bitcoin makes sense as the foundation for BOS.
Okay, I'm all ears.
First off, Bitcoin is incredibly simple. It's a system that's been running for over a decade without major hiccups.
Yeah, Bitcoin's known for its stability. It just keeps chugging along.
Exactly. And that stability makes it a very attractive base layer for something like BOS.
Okay. Stability. What else?
Then there's security. Bitcoin has the most robust security track record of any blockchain out there.
True. It's never been hacked.
Right. And that security is paramount when you're talking about smart contracts and handling people's digital assets.
So Bitcoin's got the stability, the security, anything else?
And lastly, there's Bitcoin's status as a digital commodity.
Right. It's like digital gold.
Exactly. It's a widely recognized store of value, and that makes it a very solid foundation for a whole ecosystem of applications.
Okay, those are some compelling arguments, but doesn't Ethereum have a much larger developer community? Wouldn't that make it a better platform for innovation?
Well, Ethereum does have a head start in that department, but Bitcoin's developer community is growing rapidly.
Really?
Yep. More and more developers are realizing the potential of Bitcoin plus BOS might actually benefit from what we call second mover advantage.
Second mover advantage. What's that?
It means that BOS has learned from the mistakes and challenges that platforms like Ethereum have faced.
Ah, so they're able to avoid those pitfalls.
Exactly. They're designing BOS with interoperability in mind from the very beginning.
Smart. Okay, so BOS is taking a more strategic long-term approach. I like it. Now, there was something else in the source material that really piqued my interest, this idea of a post-chain world.
Ah, yes. Edan Yago talks about that in the video.
Right, so what exactly does post-chain mean?
It's a pretty mind-bending concept, but essentially it suggests that we're moving towards a future where the focus shifts away from blockchains themselves.
Okay, and towards what?
Towards the digital assets they secure. Imagine a world where the blockchain becomes invisible, working behind the scenes to enable true ownership and control.
So it's like the internet itself. We don't think about the complex infrastructure, we just use it. And in this post-chain world, Bitcoin would be the foundation.
That's a great way to put it.
Whoa, it's getting deep.
Yeah.
We're talking about a potential paradigm shift in how we think about digital value. But there was one more thing in the source material that really surprised me.
Oh, what that?
It mentioned a collaboration between BOS and Cardano.
Ah, yes. That raised some eyebrows.
Yeah, because Cardano and Bitcoin seem to have very different philosophies when it comes to blockchain.
True. But there's a key technical reason why this partnership makes a lot of sense.
Oh.
Both Bitcoin and Cardano use the same transaction model. It's called the Unspent Transaction Output Model, or UTXO for short.
UTXO. Can you remind me what that is again?
Sure. It's basically a way of tracking transactions on the blockchain. Think of it like this. You have a $10 bill.
No.
When you spend $5, you don't destroy the $10 bill and create a new $5 bill.
Right.
Instead, you create two new outputs, one for $5 that goes to the recipient and one for $5 that comes back to you as change.
Ah, I remember now. So both Bitcoin and Cardano use this UTXO model.
Exactly. And that makes it much easier to create a bridge between the two blockchains.
So Cardano can tap into Bitcoin's liquidity and security.
Precisely. And this partnership could bring a lot more users and developers into the BOS ecosystem.
It's a win-win. And it shows the potential for a truly interconnected blockchain world. Now, keep in mind that this Cardano collaboration is just the beginning.
Oh, yeah. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole universe of potential projects and partnerships that could emerge around BOS.
This is getting me really excited. We're talking about Bitcoin as the foundation for a whole new ecosystem of interconnected blockchains and applications. It's like the early days of the internet all over again.
That's a great analogy. And remember, Bitcoin is projected to grow massively in the coming years. We're talking about potentially trillions of dollars in assets.
So the market for innovative solutions built on BOS is huge.
It's a massive opportunity.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about ZK proofs on Bitcoin, the three core components of the BOS ecosystem, the idea of a post-chain world, and this surprising partnership with Cardano. But we've only scratched the surface.
There's so much more to explore.
Exactly. In part 2 of our deep dive, we'll delve into some of the more mind-blowing implications of BOS and its potential impact on the world.
It's going to be a wild ride.
So stay tuned.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of Bitcoin OS.
We sure covered a lot of ground in part 1.
We did. We talked about all those cool technical details.
ZK proofs, Bitsnark, Grail, Merkle mesh. It's a lot to take in.
It is. But I think we laid a good foundation for understanding what BOS is all about.
Definitely. Now, I'm curious to explore some of the bigger implications.
Me too. Like, what does all this mean for the average person? How could BOS actually change our lives?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is. And one of the things that really struck me is this idea of greater user empowerment.
Ah, yes. Edan Yago talks about that quite a bit in the source video.
Right. He paints this picture of a future where we have true ownership and control over our digital assets.
Without relying on those big centralized platforms.
Exactly. No more middlemen. It's like going back to the original vision of the internet.
Decentralized and empowering the individual.
That's the dream. But I have to admit, a part of me is also a little intimidated by all this.
How so?
Well, if we're all supposed to be managing our own assets, doesn't that require a lot of technical knowledge?
That's a valid concern. But one of the goals of BOS is to make this whole thing more user-friendly.
Really?
Yeah, they want to abstract away a lot of the complexity so that anyone can use it.
So it's like how computers evolved. You used to need to be a programmer to use them. Now anyone can pick up a smartphone.
Exactly. That's the kind of evolution we're talking about with BOS.
That makes sense. Okay, so BOS could make it easier for everyday people to participate in this new world of digital ownership. But what about mass adoption? Is BOS really going to go mainstream?
Well, it definitely has a few things going for it.
Like what?
Well, for starters, it's built on Bitcoin.
Right, Bitcoin already has millions of users worldwide.
Exactly. So BOS can tap into that existing network effect.
It's like building a new city on top of an existing metropolis. You already have the infrastructure, the people, the economic activity.
That's a great analogy. It gives BOS a huge head start.
But is there a risk of alienating the existing Bitcoin community? I mean, Bitcoin has always been about simplicity, a focus on being a store of value. Adding smart contracts and all this other stuff could be seen as a departure from that.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
There will always be purists who resist any changes to Bitcoin. But I actually think BOS is very much in line with Satoshi's original vision.
Oh.
How so? If you go back and read the Bitcoin white paper, it's clear that Satoshi saw Bitcoin as more than just a digital currency.
He did.
Yeah. He envisioned it as a platform for innovation, a foundation for a new financial system.
So you're saying BOS is actually fulfilling that vision?
Exactly. It's taking Bitcoin to the next level.
That's an interesting perspective. Okay, so we've talked about user empowerment, building on Bitcoin's network, staying true to Bitcoin's vision. But what about the potential downsides? Are there any risks or challenges associated with BOS?
Of course. No technology is perfect.
So what are some of the things we should be watching out for?
Well, one concern is complexity. As we move towards a more interconnected ecosystem, there's always a risk of introducing vulnerabilities.
The more moving parts, the more potential points of failure.
Exactly. That's why the design and implementation of BOS are so important.
So security is paramount.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about financial applications.
Yeah.
Another challenge is scalability. As the BOS ecosystem grows, it will need to be able to handle a massive volume of transactions.
So we're back to the classic blockchain scalability problem.
In a way, yes. But remember, BOS is designed to leverage Bitcoin's security while offloading a lot of the computational work to sidechains and rollups.
Right. We talked about that in part 1. It's like a hybrid approach.
Exactly. And that's where interoperability becomes crucial. All these different environments need to work together smoothly.
It's a delicate balancing act. Security, scalability, interoperability. It's a lot to juggle.
It is. But I believe the BOS developers are up to the challenge. They're taking a very careful and deliberate approach.
Good to hear. Now, before we wrap up this part, I want to touch on something that I find really inspiring about BOS.
What's that?
This idea that it could lead to a more equitable and accessible financial system.
Ah, yes. That's a powerful vision.
It is. I mean, think about it. BOS is built on Bitcoin, which is already a global permissionless system.
Anyone can access it regardless of their location or financial status?
Exactly. And BOS adds this whole new layer of functionality on top of that. Imagine a world where anyone can access decentralized financial services, lending, borrowing, investing, without needing a bank account.
That would be revolutionary.
It would. It could give so many people access to opportunities that were previously out of reach.
It's an inspiring thought, but we also need to be realistic. Creating a truly equitable financial system requires more than just technology.
What else is needed?
We need to address the underlying social and economic inequalities that create financial exclusion in the first place.
Well, it's a multifaceted challenge.
It is. We need to combine technological innovation with social and economic reforms.
That's a great point. Technology is a tool. It can be used for good or for bad. It's up to us to decide how we want to use it.
Exactly. And that's something to keep in mind as we explore the potential of BOS. It's a powerful tool,
Yeah.
but it's just a tool.
Right. Ultimately, it's up to us to shape the future we want to see.
Well said. And that brings us to the end of part 2 of our deep dive. In the final part, we'll explore what all of this means for you, our listener. We'll get practical and talk about how you can start exploring the world of BOS today.
Okay, so we've spent the last 2 parts of this deep dive really getting into the weeds of Bitcoin OS.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground, from the
Yeah.
technical details to the bigger picture implications.
We talked about how BOS works, the potential benefits and the challenges, the whole idea of a post-chain world.
It's been a pretty mind-bending journey so far.
It has, but now I think it's time to bring it all home.
What does this actually mean for our listeners?
Exactly. We don't want to leave you hanging with all these abstract concepts. We want to give you some concrete takeaways.
Some actionable insights that you can actually use.
Right, so let's get practical. How could BOS actually change your life?
Well, one area where BOS could have a huge impact is financial freedom.
Financial freedom, that's a big one.
It is. With BOS, we're talking about decentralized financial services that are open to anyone, anywhere in the world.
No matter your background or your credit score.
Exactly. It's about leveling the playing field.
So what might that look like in practice?
Well, imagine being able to send or receive money instantly with almost no fees.
No more waiting for bank transfers or paying those exorbitant Western Union fees.
Exactly. Or imagine being able to get a loan or invest your money without needing a bank account.
That would be a game changer for so many people.
It would. And these are just a few examples of how BOS could empower individuals financially.
It's about giving people more control over their own money.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just money. BOS could revolutionize how we interact with the digital economy as a whole.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, think about all the platforms we use every day. Online marketplaces, social networks, gaming platforms.
Right. Those are all controlled by big corporations.
Exactly. But with BOS, we could see the emergence of truly decentralized versions of these platforms.
Owned and governed by the users themselves.
Precisely. It's about shifting the balance of power.
That's a powerful idea. It's like taking back the internet.
It is. It's about returning to the original vision of a free and open web.
A web that empowers individuals and communities, not just corporations.
Exactly. And with BOS, we're starting to see that vision become a reality.
Now, I know this all sounds pretty futuristic, and we are still in the early stages of BOS development.
That's true. But the technology is evolving rapidly.
Things are moving fast.
They are. What seems like science fiction today could be commonplace tomorrow.
So it's important to stay ahead of the curve.
Definitely. Now, even if you're not a tech expert, there are things you can do to prepare yourself for this future.
Like what?
Well, first of all, just start learning about Bitcoin and blockchain technology.
There are tons of resources available online.
There are articles, videos, courses. You can even find entire communities dedicated to this stuff.
And what about BOS specifically?
We'll check out the BOS website, follow the developers on social media. There are already some early applications that you can try out.
So get out there and start exploring.
Exactly. The more you learn and experiment, the better equipped you'll be to navigate this new world.
Who knows? You might even find yourself inspired to build something on BOS.
That would be awesome. We need more people building and experimenting in this space.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought.
What's that?
Technology is a powerful tool.
It is, but it's just a tool.
It's up to us to decide how we want to use it. We can use it to create a more just and equitable world.
Or we can let it reinforce the same old power structures.
The choice is ours.
And that's a powerful message to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Bitcoin OS.
It's been an incredible journey, and we're just getting started. The future of Bitcoin and digital assets is bright.
So stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged.
The future is waiting to be built, and it's up to all of us to shape it.
Until next time.
Keep exploring.